Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
The Honey Man, the Honest Money Man, truth about interest rates, the economy, courts. We're just getting started. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. I'm Sam Bushman. Curt Crosby's with me. Welcome to the broadcast, sir, known as your local honey man, localhoneyman.com. He's a longtime liberty-minded radio and TV personality telling the tale of truth. Welcome, sir.
Buenos dias. Greetings and salutations. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Thank you, Sam.
You're very welcome. We go from the honey man to the money man. Heath Perkins with us with the Honest Money Report. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me back, Sam.
Man, I like money and I like honey. How's that?
There we go.
All right, there's so much going on. The economy is showing signs of slowing through weaker job growth, they say. The U.S. added only 57,000 jobs in June, and the Labor Department reported weaker than expected payroll growth while revising prior months as slower, signaling a cooling in the labor market. Then they say markets react to slowing economic and employment growth, and it shifted expectations for interest rates and a whole lot more. Heath, let's go to you first on this topic here. It's interesting to me. They always release these unemployment numbers, and then what they do is they revise them later. And oftentimes they revise them down. And it really brings up the question when that happens over and over. Are they lying because they know that it'll spike the economy at first? And they also know that when you release news, it's big time. And then when you release a correction, nobody knows, nobody cares. And so they get kind of the bang or the boom out of that. I don't know what you want to call it, shot in the arm, economically speaking. And then, hey, on the back end, if we admit the truth that, hey, it was only way less than we thought it was. Biden did it. Now Trump's doing it. They've done it through, Bush did it, Reagan did it. I mean, they've all been doing it. But to me, that's disaster to do that because it manipulates the economy, Heath.
Yeah. But ultimately, if money can be made at something, and with that announcement, a lot of money gets moved around. But if money can be made at something, it's going to be manipulated. The job numbers have always been revised, and like you said, they've always been revised, and it's usually a lot lower than what they've claimed. So it's not surprising. It's just another form of manipulation that is easily monetized due to the market's it's a huge focus on that every single month. So it's not surprising at all. Yeah.
Curt, I want you to chime in on this. What do you say to this?
Well, at least the thing to me that makes it different than normal, I guess you'd say normal years when you have the government media, the insider, the kingman kind of media, running things, then they would always pump it up at first and then the real number would be lower. Now it's just the opposite. They pump it down and then the real number is higher. But that's because, of you just call it Trump Derangement Syndrome, TDS.
What do you say to that, Heath?
Yeah, like you have a lot of individuals that want to make Trump look bad. Bad job numbers are going to be the easiest way of doing it. Going after him on interest rates that aren't being lowered like he wants to. These are very easy talking points to really go after an individual. And there seems to be a lot of struggle within the government itself as to what side is trying to gain the upper hand on the talking points. And the talking points are very easy to manipulate. It makes a lot of sense, especially with this president.
Amen. I want to say to Curt's point, a lot of times what happens is when you get a president that's liberty-minded or a president that's more conservative economically speaking, when he's highlighted that we got to get rid of the IRS, he's highlighted, concerns with the Federal Reserve and everything else for quite some time. and I commend him for that. But I will say this, Curt, it's interesting to me. When that happens, most people, they don't just go, to big corporate employers. A lot of people become entrepreneurs, and a lot of people start their own small businesses, and a lot of people find other jobs that may not show up in these reports as well, showing a little bit better economic spike than might be at first appear, right?
Well, exactly, and at least along that line, I remember the old joke. You'd see this guy standing there. He's like a waiter at some fancy political event, and the politician's like, "Man, we created, a million new jobs," and the waiter's standing there, and there's a little caption above his head and says, "Yeah, and I got 3 of them." But the main point, at least to me, what we're seeing now compared to the normal, government administrations, is you see much less regulation, more enhancement of freedom, just less bureaucrats to make life rough.
And hopefully we've got several years to even improve on that metric and have even less bureaucrats and professional do-gooders as well. Heath, the semiconductor industry is the one that's kind of leading the market pullback. They say technology and chip makers shares retreated as investors are re-evaluating or reassessing the expectations for the second half of 2026. Mm-hmm. So they're watching for a second half slowdown, if you will.
Yeah. No,
go ahead.
You're good.
I just thing on that. President Trump sent out a truth this morning about 48 minutes ago, said, "How about this? Micron, a great American company, announced that they are putting in $250 million into the Trump accounts for the future benefit of children. Their stock went up 9 points today." He says, "Thank you, Micron," President DJT. So at least to me, that's the semiconductor boys, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, local one too. Yeah, we've. I think a lot of people are a little bit leery right now of how the stock market has truly reached heights that we've just never seen. And some of the computer chip manufacturers and some of these groups like NVIDIA and others, like, they're top stocks, and due to that, like, there's a lot of concern of the top dogs being some of the ones that have a lot of that first initial drop. If we do have a market pullback, usually, economically speaking, like in the past, you see your troublesome times hitting around October. The 29 crash was in October. You had the Federal Reserve. They did the repos starting in October in 2018. October seems to be the month where things start to manifest when it comes to the economy showing its weaknesses and its the chinks in the armor. So.
Yeah, they always call it October surprise, right?
Yes, yep. Indeed. I think you're right, and I don't know if they're going to try to manipulate that before the midterm elections because, that might, if they manipulate it right, go in favor of the Democrats because it's all perception. And so I hope they don't have a game-playing reality there that might be election manipulating. It wouldn't surprise me if they did that. But tariff battles are in the news because they're shifting economic debate as well. Ongoing disputes over the tariffs, the inflation, etc. So I don't think a pullback to some degree, if it's just a little bit of a pullback, I don't think that'll be a bad thing. I think that might tame or put a tamper on inflation and stuff like that. Then the Federal Reserve might lower the interest rates a little bit. Some of that I think might be welcome, Curt.
Well, so much, it's like you say, it all depends on how it's used or whatever. It's amazing to see the differences, and we've been pro-tariff ever since we learned the word tariff, right, Sam?
Yeah, pretty much, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And we remain pro-tariff, by the way. And it's sad to me that the Supreme Court didn't really pitch a lot of that back to Congress and say, look, Congress and Trump, get together and solve this tariff thing. Congress has responsibility to organize and carry out the tariff laws, but the president absolutely has to day-to-day carry out those laws. And so y'all get together and figure it out. And I really think Congress is the one that's missing in that picture. Congress needs to come to the table, codify a lot of what Trump wants to do. Then Trump wouldn't be pushed all over the map. We can blame Trump, but at the end of the day, he's trying to do his very best to implement what we know to be a founding father-esque way to generate the appropriate money for the limited, proper role of government. And what we need is Congress to double down and back the president and stabilize this thing. The sooner, the better, by the way. Oil's in the news. When we get back, we'll get an oil update. We'll also talk to Heath about what's happening in the gold and silver markets. Kind of strange. We'll tell you about it, but it's an awesome time to get involved at freewatercoinco.com. Sam, the money man, the honey man, in seconds.
Imagine a school where faith and integrity are at its center, where heritage and responsibility instill character, where educating both hearts and minds brings about academic excellence. There is a school in American Fork where character and embracing the providence of a living God are fundamental, where students' national test scores average near the 90th percentile. Based on LDS principles and a love of country, now in our 39th year, American Heritage School is accepting fall enrollment for kindergarten through high school. What would you do for your child? Give them an education that will prepare them for life. Located east of the temple in American Fork, American Heritage School is a remarkable and affordable alternative. Visit us, find us online, or in the yellow pages. American Heritage School in American Fork.
Where will you be this July? If you believe in freedom, if you believe in thinking for yourself, then there's only one place to be. Freedom Fest, the World's Fair of Liberty. July 8th through the 11th in Las Vegas. Join thousands of liberty-minded Americans for 4 unforgettable days of ideas, debate, and celebration. This isn't just an event, it's a movement. Go to freedomfest.com now. Use code Roundtable100 for your exclusive discount. That's freedomfest.com. Freedom, ideas, action.
All right, Liz better plug her ears. We're going to get crude on your radio. You okay if we get crude, Curt?
Crude oil, huh?
Yes, sir. I'm just kidding. All right, crude oil, ladies and gentlemen, I guess are easing based on diplomatic signals from the Middle East. Crude prices moved lower, lower, lower as traders are responding to implications that there's improving diplomatic conditions involving Iran. Trump's been telling us this for a while, and now we're starting to see it in the markets, Heath.
Yeah, you definitely are. Crude's down to about $67 or $68 in that range. So we've dropped significantly since the war's kind of come to a little bit more of a ceasefire, a little bit more of a controlled area. But yeah, you're seeing that. You're seeing the markets gain a little bit of perspective. We've had a lot of pullback in the gold and silver market due to the stability, which it's been interesting because it's been doing a lot of opposite things versus what it normally has been doing in the past. So with the war, we actually saw the price of gold and silver drop. With the price of crude going up, we saw gold and silver drop. With the price of crude going down, we've seen gold and silver drop. It's a very interesting market right now. There's not much that's out there that can kind of give you precedence as to what to expect. But we seem like we're coming down onto a testing a new floor in the gold and silver market to see if has enough strength to keep pushing that forward and upward. So yeah, it's been good.
All right, what do you think about this, Curt? Do you think oil's going to keep going down? I think so.
Well, Sam, there's so many parts to the picture, it seems like to me. I've got a buddy of mine that I call him the balloon man, and he's got a Ford Lightning. It's a pickup.
Yes,
it's made by Ford that basically, is electric. And he says, man, when I got that thing, I found out that I'd saved enough in fuel to pay the payment. And he's I wouldn't say over the moon about it, but he's pretty happy about it. So, you have these other parts that are playing a role in this whole oil and gas thing that I think is cool. If you get the government out of it, let the private sector take over, and you don't, encourage anybody to get an electric car by giving them tax breaks. You don't encourage somebody to have, a natural gas vehicle, but you just get the government out of it. It's amazing what can happen with the market, I believe.
You got that right. The court here, with regards to government agencies, Trump can fire who he wants. He can put the apprentice in government, and I want to see it happen. I wish we had a TV show talking about all the government officials getting let go and fired left and right. And it'd be a great reality. The Apprentice goes government. It'd be awesome to watch. But nevertheless, so they supported Trump in that, but they also then shut down Trump when it comes to the Federal Reserve. They believe the Federal Reserve should, quote, be independent. I don't really know what that means. It says Federal Reserve independence remains in focus. And then they say, this Lisa Cook, she can remain in office while disputes are happening. And, it's a big old debate. But I don't really understand much of that because Congress doesn't have authority to just create an independent agency that the chief executive of the nation, doesn't have the authority to oversee. You see, the president has oversee authority. He has day-to-day action, carry out the laws. Well, Congress doesn't have authority to make laws that basically take the president out of those decisions, Curt.
Well, you're exactly right. And if you want to really talk about the Federal Reserve, you gotta look at, we started that thing. I shouldn't say we, there's so many of us that weren't really part of it, but 1913, and, Andrew Jackson showed us the way by basically eliminating an earlier central bank for America, and we got to do the same thing in this case. President Trump wouldn't be too upset with those guys if he didn't have to deal with them. Just get rid of the Federal Reserve and go back to honest money in America. And if you're wanting to step in the in between direction, you use the United States notes that JFK and Abraham Lincoln used. And, when you print up money, it doesn't have to have interest attached. Article 1, Section 10 says, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. It's easy to understand what we're supposed to do. But I guess it's only easy out here in the country to figure that out.
Well, Heath, what do you think is going to happen interest rate wise? They kind of, on one hand, put the president in check. I don't think they have constitutional authority to do that. That's where the courts kind of run amok, and I personally think judges ought to be impeached over this. Mm-hmm. But what do you think is going to happen? They say Federal Reserve independence remains in focus, and this Fed chair, the new guy, what's his name? Kevin, how do you say it? Warsh?
Yeah.
Warsh, I guess, Kevin Warsh, he, reaffirms his 2% inflation goal. I don't want 2% inflation. That just means that every, however long it takes. Just, in other words, I got to increase my employees' pay 2% with their 2% just to keep them at the same rate. If I don't give my employees a raise because I can't afford it, then my employees start losing 2% every year.
Yeah.
And that's 2% just in inflation, but then they manipulate the inflation numbers. If they decide I can't have steak today, I'm going to have hamburgers instead. And they change all those things. You can't buy Charmin TP. You got to buy the one-ply stuff. And then they're saying, you're just buying TP. It's the same, but they're playing games. And what it really means is my employees, unless I can afford to keep up and pay them, they're getting the shaft, Heath.
Yep. So this system's designed to really help the uber wealthy. What I mean by that is you have these individuals who have mega large accounts, and the only way you can continue to pay interest into those accounts is if you can create more money. By creating more money, you have to have this 2% inflation. So the inflation is the side effect of adding more money to the money system. But these large accounts can't continue to grow and can't continue to add interest to these accounts, even though they're not even spending the interest that's being earned. So these accounts will always grow larger. They will never diminish. By pulling that interest out of the base of society and putting it into these very large accounts. So like this was how they sold central banks back in the day to wealthy landowners. So your monarchs and stuff were told, hey, we can show you how to become not just land wealthy, but also cash wealthy, and how you can tax higher amounts without the citizens knowing you're taxing higher amounts, and that's inflation. So there's a whole, this has been going on for a long time. This is one of the greatest pitches the world's ever seen when it comes to keeping the wealthy well-to-do in every aspect, not just land, but in the cash side of things as well. And you can't have that without a central bank that continues to issue additional money and cause that 2% inflation every single year.
Well, I'm only for increasing the money supply if they put it in Sam Bushman's account and let me be the one to spend it into existence. I'm just kidding, ladies and gentlemen. That's the problem, right? Heath, what do you think interest rates are going to do? And then what's the honest money report, sir?
Honest opinion, interest rates, if they don't stay flat, I'm going to see them go up. You're going to start seeing more of this trying to fight inflation that we're seeing. We're seeing consistent increases in prices across every aspect of society. Fuel, even though we've seen it drop down to less, a drop of 30+%, you haven't seen that at the pump. These prices are price sticky. You're not going to get what Trump really wants, which is a good amount of drops in interest rates due to how much excess of money has been entering the market. We have to rein in how much money and how much borrowing and how much new debt we're issuing to create that new money, or else we're just going to continue doing the same thing, which is having more inflation, which you can only fight with inflation with removing money out of the money supply, and that's charging higher interest rates. So I don't see us really dropping things. Dropping interest rates encourages spending, encourages people going out and getting loans and stuff like that, and not tightening the belt as much. Where raising interest rates, you've got to tighten that belt, but it does pull more money out of the market, which is what would help reduce the amount of inflation we're seeing. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Amen. All right, give me a quick honest money report, sir. Where's gold and silver sitting?
Gold is sitting at $4,139.10, and silver is sitting at $61.99.
Kurt, it's time to buy, man. It's down from its highs.
Well, it simply just means, it's the old shell game. But basically, the answer is, like you say, get whatever you can of honest money. And it's always been good. I know the stock market sounds really exciting, but I'll tell you what, stocks have literally been worth zero in their lifetime. And, so get your silver, gold, and encourage folks to understand what honest money is. The gold and silver, the Constitution, and Scripture for 5,000 years?
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, the dollar's what fluctuates. I know we say gold and silver are down, and they've taught us to talk that way. But the truth is, gold and silver, for the most part, holding incredibly steady, and the dollar's just all over the map, ladies and gentlemen. That's the reality check. Heath Perkins, thank you so much, my friend. We'll have you back.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Heath. FreeWaterCoinCo.com. You've got just call the money man. He'll help you out with honest money. FreeWaterCoinCo.com. Sam and Curt continue in seconds. You're watching the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live.
There's a reason why there's a penalty for truth, but it's worth it when you try. Yeah, it's worth it when you try.